Our perspective is based on our culture. You don't share our culture, therefore you could never properly tell our narrative.
We're not monolithic, and we're complex people. Everybody is, whether you're Black, whether you're white, we have contradictions. So we should see characters who we really like, but maybe there's an aspect of them that we struggle with. Well, I think the white gaze is definitely a part of what we use or talk about. I teach women in gender studies, and we talk about oftentimes controlling images. So, a controlling image is often used to justify, to rationalize, to to normalize types of images that we see that we just don't ask, oh, that's a problem with that.
These films push the perspective. Perspective is reality. So what you see, what you believe, what you are fed through the media, through mass consumption, through film, through other forms of entertainment, you start to believe. And it is inherent in social cues. You can see within how races interact socially. You can see the automatic assumption from a white male or woman of an African American being uneducated, or you can see the superiority belief.
The white gaze functions not just in isolation, but it works to justify racism and classism and sexism and heterosexism and any type of ism that you can, that we just think these things are just natural. It is the natural order of things to see people in a particular way.
In my opinion, some films that have had a negative effect or have upheld this white superiority ideology within film include The Birth of a Nation. Through The Birth of a Nation, we saw blackface, we saw the dehumanizing of African Americans through this animalistic nature, we saw these servant roles and a very inferior narrative overall of what an African American is.
So film definitely is one area, but as I was thinking about this, it also is with the cartoons. I grew up watching Bugs Bunny, and Bugs Bunny was really racist. Tom and Jerry was really racist. They had an overweight Black woman who was very aggressive, and you never saw anything but her bottom half. So she's objectified even in that way. So it's it's the cartoons that we see, it's the books that we see, then we go and consume television, and then film is just one other thing. So it's not just one thing, it's a steady diet, a constant uh, consuming of particular images that we just don't even question them.
Through film, through other forms of entertainment, you start to believe. And it is inherent in social cues. You can see within how races interact socially. You can see the automatic assumption from a white male or woman of an African American being uneducated. Or you can see the superiority belief when you look at cases that highlight how a Black man was killed over Skittles for walking within a white neighborhood at night.
So where did we internalize and get these ideas? We're consuming the exact same images that white people are consuming. So of course they would have some type of impact on us. So we can't necessarily think that, oh, I'm too smart for this, or I'm too knowledgeable about this, that doesn't have some type of impact on me. So for a person who's not in a marginalized group, you just think, well, this is, especially if I don't have an opportunity to interact with people who are different and in a different group, that this must be how these people act. And then when you are a part of the marginalized group and you're consuming the same type of images, there's some truth that we might, and all stereotypes are based on some type of truth, right? So it's some type of truth somewhere in there. The problem is when we magnify that one thing and then apply it to everyone in that particular group. So even though it might be some type of truth somewhere in there, it's not necessarily applicable, but we start to consume and digest and deconstruct those images in the same way that white people do.
Of film, and its portrayal of Black characters over time is apparent in many films today, one being Origins by Ava DuVernay. In this film, she connects the Nazis in Germany, the Untouchables in India, and slavery as well as segregation within the United States. Throughout this, we are able to now look at the African American perspective, and instead of in contrast to the birth of a nation, instead we see how they are victims, how these are not perpetrators of violence or chaos, but a group of individuals whose strength has allowed them to get through these hard times. That in itself has changed the narrative from us being animalistic to us being a people with strength, a people who have actually fell victim to the violence of the superiority of this white gaze. I believe that there has been a shift to a more positive narrative. However, I do believe that stereotypes still exist. We can see this in the narrative of the angry Black woman, or the funny, uneducated Black woman, or the violent Black man. And I believe these stereotypes are still very negative. And if you want to see how film has still had its effect on today's America, look at how races interact socially. Look at our present. Look at how African Americans or minorities are depicted. Look at the unspoken Jim Crow laws and such. So as far as has film progressed, yes. Are the stereotypes extinct? No. I believe the responsibility of filmmakers, whether that be the executive, screenwriter, or anyone in contact with this film, their responsibility is to be authentic within the Black narrative. Tell Black joys as much as you speak of Black sadness. Have Black narratives be written by Black individuals. Why would a Black experience be written through a white gaze when they have never experienced it? I believe that the most important thing is to be authentic within the stories we tell. That goes into having a Black writer write their own story. That goes into everything that it takes to tell someone's experience, to highlight its entirety and not focus or pinpoint on specifics of their experience in order to highlight them in a specific light, but instead tell the truths of them, stay authentic to who they are. And that starts with letting a Black writer or a Black director direct their own story.
So really one of the things is I would just encourage everyone to just become more media literate. I would love to see media literacy in K-12, and I think for those of us who have the opportunity to explore that in college, in classes, to share that with other people who are not in this major or not taking those courses, to say, let's just raise some different questions about some of the things that we watch and see.
I believe that as a marginalized community, our responsibility within watching these films or interacting with them in order to navigate through these spaces is to, number one, understand its impacts on us in reality. Understand how you going to a movie laughing about an angry Black woman impacts how a white woman may look at you in public and may assume that you are this angry Black woman, or as a male that you are this violent male. I think it's important to, number one, stay true to who you are, remember who you are, and then number two, be aware of what you are consuming and not just digest it, but understand it. So do not just allow yourself to be spoon-fed information without understanding its importance, without understanding what weight it carries. Because at the end of the day, our perspective is our reality. So these films, these shows, that is a reflection of us. And if you are not happy with what you see reflected, don't agree with it. Do not laugh. Do not push this narrative. And remember that that narrative is not you.